And there's truth to that because, as they say in business, there's sales and then there's everything else. The sale is very, very important. If you can get that sale and you can get something profitable, yet it's not profitable now because you're paying Gambino-type interest rates, that can change. But the sale will still be there. And I remember we had somebody who my grandfather had brought in to help us. He was a controller for Coca-Cola, and I would assume this is way before Excel. Today he was probably in his 20s. Today I'm going to guess he's 90. And he could not handle the fact that we were paying these type of interest rates. He just couldn't handle it. And every once in a while, the head factor would come downstairs. He was about an 80-year-old man. He would just sit down and start talking about his past and giving us ideas. And of course, the best idea would have been to run like hell from him. But he would just sit down and give us ideas, and he would just go back in history and just reminisce. And one day he sat there and he said, you know, when I was in the steel business, and this controller of ours looked at him and said, Hilly, you're still in the steel business. That was what was going on. That was the atmosphere that was going on. We knew we were being taken advantage of. We knew that. But again, you come back to
okay. So that's the formulary, right? That lets them. So they're able to build high volume with high vendor volume, right? Okay.
And from an operations perspective, it allows them to kind of streamline their operations and focus on efficiency, which will probably help them kind of drive down costs later because it's just that focus on the product that you're procuring. So it also gives them market power and kind of drive down costs when you talk to manufacturers.
And does that come in terms of having the smaller formulary allows him to have a thinner organization because he's managing less SKUs?
Yeah.
Okay.
And from a finance perspective, I think though, I'm actually kind of in two minds whether, because the working capital requirements will be high, because you're supplying a large volume of products. But then again, if you can find financing and you get paid on time, so then it will pay off.
So do you think you can get better terms here than you're getting from buying them on the market, or?
I think you can get better terms, and because it almost becomes like a fixed cost, so you can track your working capital much better.
Right. I think the advantage to TwinMed here is that now they can get terms from their supplier, and they can negotiate those terms and get some credit. So they're not having to put all the money up right at the beginning, and they get some power with those vendors. Okay. How about the PPD decision? How would you analyze that from TwinMed's point of view?
We'll approach the manufacturer and say, hey, we can't do this at this price. You're going to need to pay attention to here. Can you give us a fixed cost? And many times, if they believe that they can control the usage for that particular product, they might say to us, you know something, we'll give you a PPD on that product for that customer. So that is something that we started doing fairly later into the game, but it's something we started doing. And again, the concept is a very good concept. Somebody did bring up, and I forget who it was, a very good question is, now that you know that the PPD is a model that works, why isn't everybody doing it? And especially the big players. And the answer is because they can't. All the advantages, we are a PPD evolved company, meaning we're going to have a formulary. We're only going to try to sell you one type of product in each, one type of brand in each type of product. That lowers our costs. That lowers our inventory costs. That gives us less billing people that we have to deal with because it's a simple $3.25 a day times 30 days and whatnot. So it changes a bunch of things. But if a company that is already doing the standard cost plus model decides, look, we want to start competing with TwinMed and we want to start doing that, they still have to carry all of their other products for their existing customers. They still have to have all the expenses that come with cost plus. So they're immediately at a disadvantage. And yes, they've tried. And they've, thank God so far they have failed because of that reason. We started at a much lower cost. They still have 200-300 salespeople on the street that are pushing product, that are working at 5% commission. Those salespeople are still going to be there. We don't have salespeople. We found out that owners are making the decision, owners don't want their employees shopping during the day. And we came in with security and said, you don't need salespeople. You don't want salespeople roaming around your buildings. So we're doing with what other companies competitively are doing with 200-300 salespeople, we're doing with 4 or 5 people. And the 4 or 5 people go in, they close the deal, goodbye. You're not going to see us again. Well, what about customer service? Our customer service reps are more like customer service / sales. Every single one of them is assigned to an account. They know their accounts well. They know their issues and whatnot. So they take care of the customer service side. But you're never going to see somebody walk in, a salesman, once the deal closes. And a lot of nurses and a lot of the central supply people will look and go, well, that's a problem. And then they start seeing the different advantages, that come with PPD that, that I can get into certainly a little bit later. So at the end of the day, you're looking at a situation where the owner decides and realizes, I don't want my people shopping during the day. I don't trust my people to shop and buy the right things. I'd rather trust the clinicians at TwinMed that have done the studies, that are sending this same product that they're giving to you to 5,000 other nursing homes. I'd rather trust them with what's right, what's needed, and what's not needed.
I'd like to add to that. Before we implemented the PPD program, and this is something that I think is applicable to any business, and it didn't mention the case study, but since TwinMed, we have started 12 or 13 other businesses since then, and thank God, knock on wood, they've been successful. But we attended the P&L meetings of our customers. And we sat there and we watched. We looked at what are their concerns, and we'd watch a CEO or a CFO, look at that budget and say, there you were over on medical supplies again. We finally got our janitorial costs down, but the medical supplies are back up, and we saw what was concerning them, and we knew what their fears were. And I think something that's important to any business you get into is to put yourselves in the shoes of your customers. Put yourself in their shoes. Look at what their concerns are, what they want to accomplish.
They were out in the market. They're operating. This change comes along. They were able to construct a business model that, in many ways, is as elegant, as the McAfee model. They build volume with their vendors. That sets up some opportunities for them. They turn the customer now into not a customer that they're calling on, but once this nursing home starts using a PPD model, is it easy for them to switch? I don't think so. Essentially, this becomes recurring revenue now. The nursing home gets rid of some of its staff. They become dependent on these fellows. So it's they've taken a business that maybe we would look at and say is not that interesting. And I think they've made it into a business that is pretty interesting and is pretty defensible by being clever about the business model. So again, I think is it serendipity? We'll have to ask ourselves. But